Come on in. Welcome to Idled Out, where we talk all things Survivor. My name is Luke, and today we're talking about the worst moves by first boots in Survivor history. Epic flameouts, non-existent social games, baffling gameplay. There's just something magical about a lot of Survivor's first ones out. First boots are often wildly entertaining in their failures. Their eliminations set the tone for a season, and in their own way, they're often some of the most iconic and memorable parts of any given season, but probably not for the reasons they would have liked. Last week, I took a look at some of the best moves ever made by first boots, so go watch that if you want to see the other side of the first boot coin. But today, I want to lovingly honor the worst of the worst by taking a look at their worst moves ever. From players who played way too hard to players who didn't play at all. So put on your clown costume, expand your holes, and grab a rock to eat, and join me as we take a look at the worst moves ever made by first boots in Survivor history. At number 5 is David exiling Garrett in Survivor Cagayan. The top 4 spots were pretty locked in, but this 5th slot went through many different iterations. Should So's neutral box lie be here? What about Michelle's bizarre antisocial game? Then I realized there is truly only one person who can go here. I don't think David is one of the worst players ever, but he overplayed harder and faster than any first boot in Survivor history, in a way that just completely tanked his game. On day 1 of Cagayan, each tribe had to elect a captain to make a big decision for the tribe right out of the gate. This is only ever a curse, by the way, and you should always try and pin this gig on someone else, which is what Tasha did. She suggested David as tribe leader because, he's got a blazer on? Sure. As the newly appointed brainiest brain, David had to choose the weakest member of his tribe to exile to camp immediately. I've never loved this twist because, unfortunately, the optimal play in this situation is just to pick the smallest or weakest or oldest person. You'll still have blood on your hands, but if they're mad at you, you can just say their grievance is with the game, not you. David should have picked Jatia, or maybe Cass, or even Spencer. Basically anyone instead of Garrett, a guy who is more abs than man. What about this guy says weakest player on the team? It's just transparent overplaying right out of the gate, and showed that David was selfishly thinking 39 days down the road. To make his overplay even more obvious, later David ends up targeting Jatia because she is the weakest, further proving the point that exiling Garrett was an obvious game move. I don't think anyone has so needlessly played so hard so quickly, and David paid the price for his overplay with a snuffed torch. You know, it's gotta hurt getting outfoxed by Garrett and Jatia. At number 4 is Chicken refusing to talk strategy in Survivor China. A damn fine first boot for a damn fine season. Chicken was socially awkward and had no allies, but was nevertheless an important asset to Jeonhu, both in challenges and at camp. He should not have gone first. Ashley was sick, Dave was Dave, the easy boots were right there, but Chicken just kept getting in his own way. Chicken initially ruffles a few feathers when he's a little pushy while building the shelter, a minor irritation to the tribe, but it's nothing he can't recover from. Nevertheless, Chicken takes this small amount of pushback way too seriously, and from then on out refuses to give his input on quite literally anything. Chicken, should we build the shelter right here? Chicken, who should we vote out? Chicken, are you hungry? Jeonhu wanted his help. A big old barrel-chested Virginian farmer is gonna come in handy at camp and at challenges. But Chicken's stubborn refusal to offer any input on even the most minor of details irritates PG so much that she just gets the vote onto him. A result which I gather he did not expect.
First person voted out of Survivor China. Chicken.
I don't know how far Chicken might have gone in the game, but Jeonhu definitely could have used him throughout the pre-merge, and he should have been at least third in line to get the boot, but Chicken sent himself to the slaughterhouse by refusing to give a clucking opinion on anything. At number 3 is Jelinski constantly giving up in Survivor 46. It's genuinely hard to think of a thing Jelinski did right in his brief time in Fiji. Heading into Survivor 46, everyone, and I mean everyone, fans, me, other Survivor commenters, his cast, probably the producers, knew Jelinski was not long for this game. Everyone knew it, except Jelinski. Pre-game, Jelinski painted a rosy picture of the perfect game he intended on playing, full of massive blindsides, extreme control over the game, and so many advantages they'd be spilling out of his pockets. Jelinski was going to play a legendary game that would put Tony and Sandra to shame, which made things all the funnier when Jelinski threw in the towel on Sweat vs. Savvy and didn't even bother trying to finish it. This was probably the smartest thing Jelinski did in the game. Later selected to go on the journey, Jelinski had the opportunity to earn an extra vote in a simple bluffing game, but played along for like a minute before folding his hand and losing his vote in the process. In a vacuum, I don't think folding immediately is actually a horrible move. There's something to be said for just folding and building trust with the other two people on the journey. But telling your tribe all of this, that you felt guilty and didn't want Maria and Tevin to lose their vote, is not the play. Then at immunity, Jelinski again puts himself in the clutch position on the puzzle and folded again like Jelinski. Jelinski's refusal to see quite literally anything through to the end got him booted over Jess and Banu at the first of several early game Yanu tribal councils, because super headstrong players like Tiffany, Q, and Kenzie simply could not rely on him and didn't respect that someone ostensibly working with them would buckle so hard, so fast. Jelinski did end up playing a legendary game. It was just a legendary flameout. At number 2 is Zayns' Vote Me Out strategy in Survivor Philippines. Last week, I included Zayns' alliance building as one of the best moves by First Boots in Survivor history. A guy who was well liked on Mat Sing by literally everyone, Zayn had inroads with every faction on his tribe, and was almost certainly not going home first, until he asked to go home as some sort of galaxy brain plan that is so bafflingly incomprehensible, fans still struggle to wrap their minds around it to this day. After Mat Sing's first immunity loss, which can be credited in part to Zayn, he made a bizarre speech where he falls on the sword and asks Mat Sing to vote him out. Only Zayn doesn't want to go. Zayn was in good with everyone on the tribe, and he believes that they'll refuse to vote him out because they love him so much. His logic, if we dare call it that, is that he'll gain sympathy by asking to go home, and he would have an enormous amount of power on this tribe once he survives the vote. I neglected to mention this last week, but it's possible that Zayn modeled his game off of Dr. Will's in Big Brother All-Stars. Will famously got to the end game of All-Stars by asking to be voted out the first week he was on the block, which ended up reducing his threat level while his likability and off-the-charts charisma kept him safe. But Zayn, lovable as he is not Dr. Will. Zayn just stubbornly stuck too hard to his plan, even when Malcolm and Angie both begged him to reconsider, and the tribe unanimously votes him out per his wishes, and to his surprise. People have long speculated that Zayn was just sort of softly throwing in the towel and genuinely wanted to go home, but I've never bought that. Check out his exit press. He wanted to stay. He really just Zayned when he should have zagged. The worst move by a first boot in Survivor history is Wendy Joe not speaking to anyone in Survivor Nicaragua. For my money, Wendy Joe is, and always will be, the worst player in Survivor history. This is a woman who would be the first boot in any tribe, in any combination of people, in any season. Wendy Joe was profoundly bad at Survivor, and that is why we love her. Wendy Joe's strategy coming into Nicaragua was to bite her tongue and not talk strategy with anyone, or really talk to anyone at all. Her reasoning was that her family all think she's really weird, she spends all her times around goats instead of people, she talks too much, and when she talks about weird stuff. So Better to just not open her mouth at all. This is a woman whose husband didn't even have faith in her to last longer than 3 days.
My husband thinks I'm going to be the first person voted off because he thinks I talk a lot. So I think I'm going to bite my tongue and hide my true self from the tribe mates.
Wendy Joe spent the first 3 days completely isolated from everyone. And look, I wouldn't include her here if she was an introvert who just got overwhelmed by the game. But her isolation was an intentional, conscious decision made because her family told her she's weird and annoying when she's herself. By tribal, it's pretty clear that Wendy Joe is Wendy going home due to her weird quietness, but she actually speaks up at tribal for the first time to chastise everyone for not speaking to her at all.
There's nobody here that even knows my age. Not one person asked me.
I asked you.
No,
That's
you didn't.
one question I never ask anyone.
No, you never asked me.
I don't want to be asked
You're
that.
not supposed to ask a woman her age.
How old are you?
48.
You look so young.
Overall, I don't think anyone has ever played a worse game than Wendy Joe, and I doubt anyone ever will. She was weird, aloof, and intentionally isolated herself. She had no interpersonal connections to speak of, and her tribal Hail Mary was to scold everyone for not asking her how old she is. She can't even use the excuse that she was the old person because they're all old. To still go home first on a tribe where you have 2 of maybe a total of 12 working knees? That's impressive. Got nothing else for ya. Don't quit on me like Jelinski at a Sweat vs. Savvy challenge. Like and subscribe and I'll get you more Survivor content just like this. Until next time, don't get idled out.